We will discuss about C++ constructor. In C++, constructor is a special method which is invoked automatically at the time of object creation. It is used to initialize the data members of new object generally. The constructor in C++ has the same name as class or structure. In brief, a particular procedure called a constructor is called automatically when an object is created in the C++. In general, it is employed to create the data members of new things. In C++, the class or structure name also serves as the constructor name. When an object is completed, the constructor is called because it creates the values or gives data for the thing. It is known as a constructor. The constructor prototype will be looking like this. First you will write the class name. After that we will write the list of parameters. Another syntax which is used to define the class's constructor is class name and the list of parameters in the bracket and the constructor definition in the flower brackets. The following syntax is used to define a constructor outside of a class. When we want to define a constructor outside of any class, we use the syntax class name colon again class name list of parameters in the brackets and the constructor definition in the flower brackets. Constructors lack a return type since they don't have a return value. There are two types of constructors in C++. First one is default constructor, second one is the parameterized constructor. C++ default constructor. A constructor which has no argument is known as a default constructor. It is invoked at the time of creating the object. We will see the simple example of C++ default constructor. First, you are creating a class named employee. In that, the public data member is employee. This is the member function employee of. See out you are printing default constructor invoked and you are writing the end line. In the main function, you are creating two employee objects E1 and E2. Then you will get default constructor invoked. Here we wrote the constructor name same as the class name and we are just invoking the or creating the objects. Whenever we create the object, this constructor is invoking and you are getting output as default constructor invoked for employee one object creation and default constructor invoked for the employee two object creation. Second type C++ parameterized constructor. A constructor which has parameters is called the parameterized constructor. It is used to provide different values to distinct objects. Let's see the simple example of C++ parameterized constructor. Now you create a class. In that we create three data members int id string the name and float salary and a member function or a parameterized constructor you are creating here with the same name as the class name. Class name you keep there and in the bracket you should write the parameters int I string n float s and you are assigning id to I, name to n and salary to s. Next you are writing a function to display. After that, in the main function, we are creating two objects and we are passing some values as the parameters such that the constructor will be invoked. Even dot display of e2 dot display of, then return 0, then the output will be 101 sono 89 four zeros. Whatever you are passing here, that we will get as the output as we are writing the logic of the display function. What distinguishes constructors from a typical member function? Constructor's name is same as the class name. Default, there isn't any input argument for constructors in the default constructor. However, input arguments are available for copy and the parameterized constructors. There is no return type for the constructors. An object's constructor is invoked automatically upon the object creation. It must be shown in the classroom's open area. The C++ compiler creates a default constructor for the object if a constructor is not specified. What are the characteristics of a constructor? The constructor has the same name as the class it belongs to. Although it is possible, constructors are typically declared in the class public section. However, this is not a must. You can keep it in a private or else in a protected section as well. Because constructors don't return values, they lack a return type. When we create a class object, the constructor is immediately invoked. Overloaded constructors are possible. Declaring a constructor virtual is not permitted. One cannot inherit a constructor. Constructor addresses cannot be referenced to. When allocating memory, the constructor makes implicit calls to the new and delete operators. What is a copy constructor? A member function known as the copy constructor initializes an item using another object from the same class. An in-depth discussion on copy constructors. Every time we specify one or more non-default constructors, means with parameters for a class, we also need to include a default constructor without parameters as the compiler won't supply one in this circumstance. The best practice is to always declare a default constructor even though it is not required. A reference to an object belonging to the same class is required by the copy constructor. By seeing the example sample of sample and t, id equal to t dot id. This is the example for the copy constructor. What is a destructor in C++? This we will learn in detail in the next class. A small definition is there about a destructor. An equivalent special member function to a constructor is a destructor. The constructor creates class objects which are destroyed by the destructor. The word destructor followed by the title of symbol is the same as the class name. You can only define one destructor at a time. One method of destroying an object made by a constructor is to use a destructor. What is the main functionality of a destructor means? It is one method of destroying an object made by a constructor. Whenever the object is created, the constructor is invoked. To destroy that constructor, you can use a destructor. Thank you.